Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm really excited to have an opportunity to speak with you tonight. We're just going to give everyone a couple of minutes to log in because we have a lot of registrants. And once everyone is logged in, then we'll get started. If you're just joining us, welcome to the Parents First Year Students and Families webinar. We'll get started in just a minute. We want to give everyone a chance to log in. Okay, I'm going to get started. Welcome to the student community webinar for first year students and families. My name is Melissa Gresalfi. I'm the Dean of the Ingram Commons. Really excited to welcome you tonight. A couple of housekeeping points before we begin. First of all, we are recording this webinar so that we can share it with folks who were not able to attend. And second, we will be having time for questions. And there is a Q&A feature on the webinar. Please feel free to use it. I'll share some introductory comments, but then there will be time to address questions that you have. So just drop any questions in there that you have, and we will try to get to all of them. So let's hopefully my keys will work here. Here we go. So first of all, I want to welcome you to Vanderbilt. I am really excited that we're getting a chance to gather here online, but I'm even more excited that in less than a month, I'll have an opportunity to meet all of you in person on the Commons. As you might imagine, last year was very different and we had to make a lot of accommodations. We did it. We actually had over 1,200 events on the Commons last year. So we certainly managed to gather and form community, but we had to be very creative about how we did it. And I think we're all really excited to be able to return to some of our most favorite kinds of activities and to welcome everyone back here in person in some of the ways that we always have. So tonight, we're going to talk a lot about the Commons and the ways that we form community here on the Commons. And I'll share a little bit about what you can expect when you get here. But then we're going to spend some time with the panelists that we have here today as well, who are going to share from their perspective of community building what they do to connect with and support students. And then we'll have time for questions from the audience, which for the last, so that everyone has an opportunity to share some of the things that they've been wondering about. Now, as I'm sure you can anticipate, you might have questions that we don't have answers for because we don't have every office from the university gathered here tonight. So if there's questions that you have that we are not able to answer, we will share links to the offices that would have those answers or links to web pages if those answers are already in place. So to begin, I want to give you a little bit of an overview about how things work here. At almost all universities, there's two kinds of communities that you can expect to see. A community that's about a group that's focused on academic development, and a group that's focused on students' health and safety. And we have those communities here too. So of course we have the 4 academic deans of the 4 undergraduate colleges whose job it is to support and design for students' academic experiences. And then we also have an entire office devoted to student support and student well-being, which is led by the Dean of Students, GL Black. Now, when I was in college, this was it. There were these two worlds that students lived in, and at least from what I could see, those worlds never connected unless there was a problem. And so your life as a student and your life in your residence hall were 2 totally different lives. At Vanderbilt, we think a little bit differently about how the college experience should go. And instead, we really like to think about the bridges between these 2 communities, which is really about the intellectual community that you form with your peers and with faculty members here on campus. And at Vanderbilt, there's two teams that really oversee the development of intellectual community at the intersection of these other two broader communities. And that's led by Vice Provost Vanessa Beasley, who's the Vice Provost of Academic Affairs, and Vice Provost William Robinson, who's the Vice Provost of the Office of Exclusive Excellence. And those two offices really help us think about how do we bridge what was traditionally a social and safety community with an academic community to create an overarching community of student development. So tonight, I'm going to talk about one aspect of the intellectual community, which is what you find on the Commons. The Commons is where all first-year students live. We have 10 different houses. I'll tell you a little bit more about each house tonight. Each house is a little bit of a different size and has a different faculty head that leads it. We're all together here on Peabody campus, which is just right across the street from main campus. And we have our own dining hall and our own facilities here. And the goal is to create a first-year community as students entree into residential colleges. When you get onto campus, your very first community will likely be your hall community. And each hall has its own RA, who's an upper division student, sophomore, junior, or senior, who is responsible for helping the hall form community, helping students get connected to resources, and making sure that people are staying safe and healthy. Each team of RAs in the house is led by an HRA, a head resident assistant, and each HRA team is also supported by a professional staff area coordinator, and it keeps going up from there. But the RAs are the faces of the hall community, and they'll be some of the first people that you meet. A second community that you form on the Commons is your house community. As I mentioned, there's 10 different houses on the Commons. Each house is led by a faculty head of house, who is a faculty member here at the university. And each faculty member lives in an apartment in the residence hall with their families. So you will see them all the time. You'll see them at the dining hall. You'll see them going for a run in the morning, walking their dogs. These people live with you. And each faculty head is a professor here on campus. And we really try to make sure that the faculty heads represent the diversity of our community in all the ways that we can. So we have faculty from biological sciences, from sociology, from Spanish and Portuguese, so that you can think about the different ways that faculty members live their lives, both in the university, but also outside of their academic jobs. So when you have an opportunity to hang out and play soccer with some of the kids on the Commons, the little kids on the Commons, or you just get a chance to sit down with your faculty head over an omelet someday, it's an opportunity to form some connections with people that bridge beyond the ways you might meet faculty members in the classroom. So part of the ways that houses form their communities is through events. And one of the key features of the house community is what we call signature events. So each house has a weekly event. They each have different names. They occur on the same day every week at the same time. And it's just a completely informal, optional opportunity to come together with people in your house and hang out. All of the signature events prominently feature food, but sometimes activities as well. And students can stop by for 5 minutes or an hour. The faculty heads are always there. RAs are usually there, and it's just a little bit of a break. Houses also have events as well. So the events are opportunities for smaller groups of students to gather together around things that they think are fun or interesting or that they're curious about. So there are dinners, there are games, there are movies, and these are always smaller group events. Sometimes they're hosted in a faculty member's apartment, and sometimes they're hosted on the lawn, depends on the activity. But again, these are spaces where each house can form community with the people who are part of the house. And I should say here that there's nothing that we host on the Commons that is exclusive. So if you, for example, really wanted to have ice cream at 3 different houses, you could go to 3 different signature events on a Thursday night and just, have a lot of sugar that night. So everything that we host is open to everyone. A third community that you form is on the Commons itself, where all the first-year students live. And the Commons is organized around 5 pillars, and those pillars help guide the programming that we develop, that we that we think help students bridge these different realms of their college experience. And those pillars are intellect, community, personal well-being, self-discovery, and cultural awareness. So everything that you see being hosted on the Commons or by the houses is intended to help students connect in one of these pillars. So as an example, here's some of the programming that we offered just last year. We had a series called Homegrown Activism that was about the history here in Nashville of civil rights and justice. And we connected that history to what's happening in Nashville today. We had, unsurprisingly, an entire series about voting in elections since the elections were last fall, where we had opportunities for Vanderbilt Republicans, Vanderbilt Democrats to get together to learn about the history of some of the role of Tennessee in different elections, and then to watch the debates and talk about things together. And then, of course, we have events that are about like understanding and learning about yourself, or just gathering in a community. And these events happen sometimes every week, sometimes once a month. Again, they're open to everyone. And they're an opportunity to gather with other people with whom you might share some interests in common. Another feature of the Commons that helps build community is called the Commons Cup. And the Commons Cup is a very friendly competition between the houses, which involves participating in a series of events that are aligned with the 5 pillars. Each house earns points based on how they participate in those events. And at the end of the year, the house with the most points is awarded a Commons Cup. There's a ceremony at the end of the year where each house actually gets some sort of recognition for the role that they played, but then only one house can actually win the cup. A fourth community that students develop here on campus in their first year is through Vanderbilt Visions. Now, Visions is the name of what we call our extended orientation program. It lasts for 12 weeks. And Visions are small groups of students, usually around 18 students, who meet with a faculty member and an upper division student who are called viewceptors. So a faculty and a student viewceptor. And they lead these meetings that meet every single week for 12 weeks. What happens in Visions is that the groups meet together around a common syllabus to talk about and support students to really adjust to Vanderbilt, to learn about the community, to learn about the resources that are here, to meet each other in their Visions group and form another community, and also to learn about what it means to live with other people and support one another in our community. We don't really believe in bringing a bunch of people together and sending them off and wishing them luck. Coming together in a diverse community, creating a legitimately inclusive space is not easy. So it's a thing that we work on together and develop skills with together. It's also really important to us that our students understand the wealth of resources that are available here at Vanderbilt. And there's so many things that are available. Sometimes it can be a little bit overwhelming to figure out, well, where do I go when I have this problem? And that's really an important purpose of Visions, is to know exactly who to ask when you're trying to figure out what resources are available to you. I would be remiss if at this moment I didn't mention and remind everyone that as part of the Visions curriculum, there is a shared reading called the Commons Reading that all first-year students are required to read. You have definitely received emails about this. This year, the Commons Reading is called When Breath Becomes Air. It's written by Paul Kalanithi. And this year, we are reading the book online through an app called Fable that we purchased. We purchased a subscription for every student. And we've chosen to use Fable this year because it supports online discussion that's happening this summer. So each student this summer is in a reading group that's totally separate from your Visions group. And it's an opportunity for you to read and discuss the book before you get here. Each student is asked to write and submit an essay by the end of the summer. And it's in response to one of these 3 prompts that was also included in, I'm sure, multiple emails at this point. These essays go to your viewceptors, the faculty and student viewceptor pairs, and we use those to get a sense of who's in our Visions group, to understand your reaction to the group, your response to the group, your reaction to the book, and to anticipate and plan for the ways that we want to use the book in our meetings together. I want to tell you a little bit about what to expect from orientation. And really, as they say, pictures are better than words. And so I'll start with a video from 2019.
I have a complete blast helping out all the freshmen. I know what a huge experience it was for me personally, and it really starts off the college experience.
Welcome to Vanderbilt!
The community, the family, the spirit, the love, and I'm already hoarse.
We are a Vanderbilt family, and we look out for each other. So we want to be sure that when our students come here and they arrive on campus, that they're able to achieve their full potential.
Welcome to Vanderbilt!
Super excited for her. Now suddenly a little emotional. But yeah, I think this is going to be the time of her life.
I visited so many schools, but then when I came here, everybody was just smiling, and it just felt like home, and it just felt right to be here.
I'm super excited. It's like the incline on a roller coaster. Like, I'm super nervous, I'm really excited, and like just finally got down the incline. Like, I'm exhilarated and I'm ready to get started.
Just driving up, all the kids were out yelling. You could really see their real enthusiasm. And it just, I don't know, it just really touched my heart. It made me so excited for him. And then it made me feel part of this community as well. And it was just wonderful.
I've been saying it's just a great indication of the power of the community here, the undergraduate community. It's a real commitment to the new students, and I hope they feel as welcomed as they really truly are.
So that's moving. And that is the very first thing that you can expect when you arrive on campus. It actually really is that energetic and exhilarating in person. You will receive, hopefully in the first week of August, from what I hear, I think they're still on track to do that, you will receive your house assignment. And at some point, you will also be told what time you get to move in. It will be a slot sometime between 7 a.m. and 12 p.m. And so for everyone, Saturday, August 21st, move-in day, you'll have a slot sometime between 7 and 12 to move in. And then you have a big chunk of time on Saturday to just get settled. If you mailed packages to campus, you can pick up the packages, you can figure out your Commodore card, which is your student ID card. There's all kinds of resources happening all around campus to just learn a little bit more. And those activities are voluntary. You do what you need to do to get settled. Starting at 3 o'clock on Saturday, we'll have open houses with faculty heads of house, which again are optional, but it's an opportunity for students and parents and families to meet that faculty head of house who's going to be living with your student all year. And then from 4 to 5 p.m., there's also a University Resources and Services Fair. Now, just to be clear, student orientation continues for days. And so students will have opportunities to learn a lot about the resources here on campus. But this is just a little glimpse into what we have to offer so that parents and families can also be informed of all the resources that we have here. At that point on Saturday, that's when things split. So starting at 5:30, there will be activities for students only and activities for parents only. So for students, starting at 5:30, there will be house dinners and floor meetings that'll happen in your houses. And then later that night, absolutely. So the house dinners and floor meetings are mandatory, but movies and games are optional. So later that night, we'll have lots of activities out in the lawns for students to participate in if they wish. For parents and families, at that same time at 5:30, there is a parents and family orientation. This is, again, this is optional. It is going to be in person, but we will also be live streaming it and recording it. So if you need to go somewhere or you just don't feel comfortable gathering in person inside with people, it's not a problem. You'll have an opportunity to get that same information. We'll have 2 orientation sessions. The first one is about learning a little bit about how to support your student academically in this new phase. And then we'll have a panel about health, safety, and well-being. when you might communicate with Vanderbilt and when you might expect Vanderbilt to communicate with you. And that day is the end of our parents and family orientation experience. Starting on Sunday, students have their own orientation that will keep them really busy Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday up until the first day of classes on Wednesday. So that was just a brief overview of the community that we have on the Commons. If you have questions that don't get answered tonight, absolutely, you can email the Commons at vanderbilt.edu. But now I want to stop talking and turn this over to our panelists. Let me introduce them first. So tonight I've invited panelists who are part of these different communities that I outlined. And to begin, there's Trey Minter, who is a rising senior at Vanderbilt, majoring in medicine, health, and society, and public policy studies, and minoring in education studies. Trey is going to be the HRA of Murray House this year, but he's been an RA on the Commons since his sophomore year, which means he loves the Commons because he's been here all 4 years. Trey is also involved in the University Concert Band, NAACP, and Alternative Spring Break. We also have Randy Tarkington, who is the Senior Director of Residential Experience. His role involves directing and supervising the residential staff, including the area coordinators who I mentioned and the RAs, who are the front line, as I said, in supporting student safety and well-being. Mr. Tarkington has been at Vanderbilt since 2006, and during that time has developed a very well-deserved reputation for his deep commitment to and concern for students. And I just have to tell one quick story that this year there was a student who had a really tragic thing happen in his family, and his parents emailed me and some other deans to let us know what was happening. And so I forwarded the email to Randy so that he knew, and Randy was like, I've already got this kid's number in my phone, like we're already in contact. And just a reminder that there's over 1,600 first-year students. So it's a well-deserved reputation for his commitment to students. We also have Shalene Helmuth, who is a senior lecturer in Spanish and Portuguese and affiliated faculty in the Center for Latin American Studies. She is also the faculty head of Sutherland House. Professor Helmuth has been at Vanderbilt since 2003 and has been a faculty head of house since the very first year of the Commons. And she's actually now the only faculty head who has been with us since the very beginning. So she has a wealth of experience and information to share. And then finally, Lola Falei is a junior from Washington, DC, double majoring in medicine, health, and society, and psychology, and minoring in Spanish. Aside from academics, she is a tour guide and serves on the executive board of ViewSept, which is the organization that helps run Visions, as I mentioned. She is the public relations co-chair of ViewSept and is also involved in campus organizations like Camp Kasem and the after school program. So what I'm going to do to begin is to ask each panelist to just share from their perspective what in their role they do to support community here on the Commons. And Trey, let's start with you.
Yes, so thank you all for coming to the panel and coming to listen. So coming from an RA perspective, I think first to be able to build community and build those friendships, you need to feel safe and at home in the space that you're going to be living in. So I think one of the biggest responsibilities of RAs, especially on Commons, is building that safe community. And one of the biggest parts of safety is making sure you guys feel included on your floor and in your house, that you can bring your whole self to your floor, to your house when you walk in, and that you just feel at home, because that's the space that we want to build for y'all. And so that's what I see as a primary mission. And that then sets the foundation for the friendships and the community that you will build as your freshman, your first year goes along. And so I know there's like that popular image of an RA as some like daunting disciplinary figure that's always trying to trap you down for doing something. But I think of it more as a mentorship and a partnership role. So we help create events on our floors, help to be there through the challenges that you'll encounter in your first year, and just be there to be a helping hand. But I always want to include the students on my floor and in our house and making those decisions about those events and being there as much or as little as you need me to be. And I think that's so valuable in the community that we create. On a house-wide level, RAs are there around the house all the time, especially when events are going on. We help craft events with the head of house. You'll hear more about that role from Dr. Helmuth. But we're always there. We're always there to kind of just be that welcoming face. Our team is always there working together, and we're just excited for a new year and to have y'all step into the Commons community.
Thank you, Trey. Randy, do you want to share from your perspective?
Well, thanks, Trey, for have to follow that. Trey's very indicative of the RA staff that we hire that we're so proud of. It starts with them, with the RAs. Oh, by the way, I want to point out to y'all, by the way, I found this week when I was cleaning up during being home a lot. This is my list I made in 1978 of things I was taking to college with me. So it's an antique. But I have things like clock radio sheets, blanket pillows, some things are universal, but I literally came across that thing yesterday and I thought, what perfect timing. Some things remain the same. How do we build community? We start with this amazing RAs. They are hired for a reason. They're amazing role models, people that students can look up to. I always students, if you will emulate your RA or their qualities, you will have a great chance of being successful at Vanderbilt. As Trey mentioned, the RA support the faculty heads in building communities on the floors and in the house. We also have a program we call Meaningful Conversations, in which we ask RAs to spend one-on-one or one-on-two time getting to know the residents. And the purpose of that is then to know where to connect the residents to the many, many resources that Dean Gresalfi mentioned that the campus has. So to find out if you're interested in this club, this is how you get involved. If you're struggling in this area, here's somebody who can help you. And so we're very intentional about building a program in which we want RAs to go out and have those very personal conversations to get to know their residents, not only collectively, but one-on-one. And that's really, to use the word you hear at Vanderbilt a lot, an anchor of where my staff comes involved as professional staff. We are always on duty. There's always an area coordinator on duty, always an assistant director on duty. For all practical purposes, I'm always on duty because there'll be some stumbles and some struggles along the way. And what we want to do is turn those into learning opportunities. Trey mentioned it. You're going to do your best when you are at your best. So to be the best member of your community is when you are at your best. And so a lot of what our job is to connect you to the things that you have interest in, that you find enjoyment in, or if you're struggling in adjustment, to help you make that adjustment. Maybe it's to get better study skills at the Center for Student Wellbeing. Maybe it's something going on at home and you need to get connected to the Counseling Center or the Office of Student Care Coordination. My team is the team that can help facilitate that. If something happens and an incident happens, more than likely even an RA or the area coordinator is going to reach out and just have a conversation with you. Very safe, very instructional, to use that as a learning opportunity to, again, with the goal of helping you be your best self. So I think in many ways, in addition to building communities, which we have these amazing partners of our faculty heads and at the Commons who do so much of that, we're there to assist them. I think our bigger role is then being that liaison to help you be your best self so that you can give your best, not just to your community, but all of Vanderbilt.
Thank you, Randy. Shalene, Professor Helmuth, can I turn it over to you?
Yes, thank you so much. And it's a pleasure being here. I'm happy to see the strength in numbers. You all are engaged and interested, and that's a great place to start. I have to say that I share the enthusiasm of all of us here for Move-In Day. It's worthwhile celebrating the start of the year. It is a long anticipated event. And I know for me, the day is very celebratory of what we hope, and we now know with our track record behind us, what is to come, the potential of the year. And it is great cause for celebration. The second day on Sunday, after the students have all slept only one night in their new beds, we get together as communities that are by house, and we have an afternoon event called the Community Creed. And that is always a highlight for me of the year. It's very important because I tell everyone in the room, and it's the first time and probably the last for the whole year that we are in one space physically together, the whole house. In my case, it's 184 students, attendant RAs, alumni coming back to help out. And that event marks the beginning and of our path, our journey toward community. And my charge to them is always, by virtue of landing in Sutherland, because that's really what you did, you landed here kind of randomly, you now belong here to this community. And so the challenge I issue is make it your community. And I echo what both Trey and Randy said. This is an invitation to participate in the wonderful things that are available here at Vanderbilt. For myself as faculty head of house, I first met Trey in the class I teach, a first year writing seminar, and I'll teach it again this fall. Sometimes I'm fortunate to have people who live in my house also in my class. It's just a new, really multidimensional way to live out my vocation as a professor. And I think I can speak for my colleagues as residential faculty. We like students. We enjoy being around them. Otherwise, why would we live with them? And so while we might be the face of you or your student who's living in one of our houses of the house, I really am only part of a very large, rich, proactive network of people who have their eyes on you all and on your kids, because we want this to be a journey that, when we see it, I do, as a journey that we share starting out your college career. And so I feel like part of my obligation, also opportunity, is to introduce students to all the wonderful things at Vanderbilt. And I rely on the network of RAs in my house to really know kind of what the sentiment is on the floor, some of the things that are coming up people are dealing with. And so I and my RA team respond to that, and also with the elected student officials eventually on the House Advisory Council. And we're responsive to what we see going on. We create events, both social, academic. We're part of, I guess, the whole, where we are really, our eyes are on whoever's in our house. We know who they are. And I hope that's exciting for you students who are coming in, and also a comfort to parents. But it's really a very energetic, high energy place. Melissa mentioned I've been here a long time. It continues to provide opportunities to, I hope for myself, to be my best self as a professor who is living among students. It's a goal and a very enjoyable place to be, and that makes a difference, of course, I think, with how we do our jobs. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Lola, what about from your perspective as a VSEP board member?
Of course. So Visions is such a unique experience where you're able to have a community of students from all different backgrounds and perspectives all in one space and purposefully. I love my Vision experience, and so many of the friends that I made there I would not have made otherwise. We just wouldn't have crossed paths, but Visions really provided us the outlet and the avenue to actually be part of that and make such a great community. And also a huge aspect of Visions that I think really helped with community and friendships was called Highs and Lows, which just sharing the high of your week or the low of your week. And while that seems so like rudimentary and so simple, it basically went such a long way. Because if you felt bad about a test or felt bad about something else, you would say, oh, I feel bad about this. And someone else would be like, oh yeah, me too. And all of a sudden you weren't alone in that. You had that companion, you had that friend there, and like bonding over that, or bonding over something that's good as well. Like I had a great week and someone said, me too. Like that was also great. And so just sharing in those triumphs and some of those trying times with such an amazing experience for my Vision experience. And also you also learn how to learn more about inclusion and equity throughout the Visions curriculum. So as you learn about that, you're also learning about how to be a better person with your friends. So it's like you're all growing together, and that was just a great experience that I had. On the side of the VSEPtors, on the side of like the actual VSEPT orientation leaders, it's my favorite organizations on campus, because our sole job is to support the first years and support you and help make your first year transition as seamless as possible. And that's all we really want to do. So whether that's going the extra mile and just having a joint business session and just spending time together and helping you, whether it's connecting you to a faculty member, connecting you to organization you're interested in, we really help you get integrated into the Vanderbilt community and really push that buck forward. And yeah, that's a little about Visions and VSEPT.
Thank you. there's a couple of people have asked the same question in the chat that I'm gonna answer, and then I have a question for you, Lola, but several people have said, can you just clarify, when do we get to say goodbye to our students? Is it Saturday or Sunday? So the students will have, I believe their first activity begins at 10 a.m. on Sunday. We will be feeding the students breakfast here on Sunday. It is true that some people said they had heard there was a parents and family breakfast on Sunday. And in years past, we have been able to do that, but as you know, there are still COVID protocols that we need to follow. And one of those protocols involves needing to be masked if you're vaccinated on if you're unvaccinated on campus. And so for that reason, we're not able to serve food at this time because we don't ask parents and families to upload their vaccination status. So instead, we'll just be giving breakfast to the students. Now, if your student is an early riser and you want to see them before their first obligation Sunday morning at 10, absolutely, you can. But if you know that's going to be, dubious, then you might want to say your goodbyes on Saturday night. There will be nothing that we have organized for parents and families starting on Sunday. So there's nothing you would miss at all. Right, and I just saw another comment. So no, they're not free until 3 on Sunday. They're free until 10 a.m. on Sunday. And I should also say, this is all what we're planning at this moment. We hope this is exactly what happens, but I'm sure you all read the same newspapers that I do. So, we always need to be a little bit flexible as much as we can about the ways that things might change. And in fact, we'll be sure to share in the chat a link to where you can find the most updated information about the ways that the university is responding to the current circumstances around the pandemic. But we will not suddenly surprise you with an event on Sunday after I told you there's nothing on Sunday. So that is a guarantee. So Lola, I wanted to ask you a question. Can you explain a little bit about visions? Like, how does that fit with the rest of a first-year student's academic experience?
For sure, that's a great question. So Visions is built into your schedule. Once that is added to your schedule, probably a little later, but definitely before the school year, it'll be built into your schedule apart from your classes. So it is a required curriculum, and this is not, it's a space where you and that faculty of the youth sector and that student of the youth sector and around 18 other students will have a space to discuss the Visions curriculum, discuss how your weeks are going, and things of that nature. Does that answer your question?
And so I think we should also add that, so Visions is mandatory. So all students are assigned a Visions group, and it's a class that you have to show up for. It's a fun class. It's a small class. You don't have any homework for this class, but it is a class. And again, the purpose is to think about the ways that we introduce students to the academic resources and support on campus, to help students form community with other students, and then to help us think about our broader community. What does it mean to be an inclusive community? We have an incredibly diverse class every single year. And that means that we have to learn how to live together. And Visions is one of the places where we figure out how do we get along. Thank you. So, Trey, I have a question about RAs. Can you share a little bit about how do RAs welcome students when they join, when they arrive? And is that different for international students than domestic students?
Right, so we recognize that we have different groups of students coming from different landscapes. I mean, we have student athletes that are first years that move in early. We have international students, and then we have students moving in on move-in day. So as RAs, we are already there well before most of the students arrive. So we'll be in place, we're gonna be ready to go. And we're welcoming all the students that enter into our hall when they arrive. So I know international students move in a little bit earlier than the rest of the cohort, but we're still there to welcome them, to make sure, to answer their questions and make sure they settle in. And y'all are free to be, as part of the big move-in day as our regular students moving in. So we're always there again, just to be a welcoming hand. It's just maybe a little bit different in terms of kind of all the events going on each day that occur.
Thank you. Brandy, I know that this is a little bit more about O'Hare than it is about residential experience, but I think you'll be able to answer it. There's a question in here about how is the university handling students who've asked for an exemption from the vaccine? Will parents and families be able to know if their students have been housed with someone who is not vaccinated?
Actually, an email was sent on July 12th to all students explaining that process this year. And what we have done for students who've selected each other, what we ask you to do in that conversation is have a candid conversation about vaccination status and comfort level and where you are in regards to living with each other in regard to vaccination. For students who are did not select a roommate and we make assignments, we will make those assignments with vaccination status as part of the equation and how we assign. So if you have selected your roommate and you're having lots of conversations, and we encourage that, when the first things you're going to do when you get here under the facilitation of the RAs is we have a roommate agreement form. We ask you to sit down and talk about all kinds of things. You know, am I an early riser? Do I like to stay up late? How cool do I like the room? Who's going to take the trash out? Can I eat each other? Can we eat each other's food? We ask you to have a lot of conversations, and this is just a natural extension of that now that we still live in a COVID world. And as Dean Gresalfi mentioned, you know, as much as we'd like to think we're done with COVID, we're not. And so we're going to continue to put the protocols in place. We will continue to offer quarantine isolation housing this year as we did last year, hopefully at a much smaller level. We'll continue to support that as we've done in the past, but we're asking you to have those conversations with your selected roommate. And then if you're randomly assigned, that will be part of the consideration in assigning vaccinated together and unvaccinated together.
Thank you. And, you know,
and let me add, by the way, we did say if you have that conversation that creates any concerns or issues, let us know, and then we can re-examine the assignment.
And it's just the first of many conversations that roommates get to have together. And I would, you know, Trey, can you share a little bit about, so this question didn't come up today, but it's come up a lot. So like, what happens if there's a conflict between roommates? How do RAs handle that? How does residential experience handle that?
So we'll talk about this a lot, especially in those first few days of you coming here, but we're hoping that we build great relationships with your roommates and your floor mates. And so the first thing is, of course, just sitting down with your roommate and having that conversation about what's going on and what's happening. RAs are kind of that first line of mediation though. So if you guys are really struggling with a certain issue, you can come to us. And our goal is to make sure we can still have, you know, people living in their same rooms and getting along and just helping you through that process. Of course, things happen and sometimes conflicts aren't resolved in the ways that we all want them to be resolved. And so then we come in and we'll help you take those next steps if other things need to occur. But our first goal is to make sure that we can mediate that conflict and ensure that we just keep that strong community going.
Thank you. I know that I went through the orientation timeline really quickly, and so as a consequence, there have been a lot of good questions about it. And I want to, I can't actually, I don't have the privileges to post things in the chat. So I will ask Christina to post something in the chat. But we do have a link to orientation that we will share with you all. The schedule is of course evolving, but just to be clear, Saturday is when all events for parents and families end, and it ends at 5:30 is when students have their first obligation, and that obligation includes dinner. So you don't need to make reservations for dinner Saturday night. You can make them for yourselves, but your student will be eating. Actually, this will be their first meeting with their RAs. So they'll be eating with their RAs and coming together to think about, well, what do we want our whole community to look like? What are our norms? What are our expectations? So that's first of several hall meetings that students have as they in these first couple of days. So that will be Saturday night. We have just a couple of minutes left. So I have one more question, Shalene, for you. Can you just give a picture from the perspective of a faculty head of like what students experience over the course of orientation? What kinds of things would you say that they get to do that helps invite them or, and help them learn about orientation or the university, sorry.
Well, certainly, understandably, there's kind of frenetic activity to try to meet everybody you can, and that's fun. And it also is very, it can be time consuming, but it's certainly worth that investment of time to meet everybody you can on your floor. So we have, the RAs are very proactive in getting you to have these kind of opportunities to feel connected to people on your floors, as Trey mentioned. We also have a really great event the night before class starts called Academic Night. And students are assigned by school of study to a small gathering with a faculty member who answers their questions about the first day or first week of class or studying at college. It's an open forum. We always cover certain topics, but it's a great way for you as a incoming student to kind of get your feet grounded and realize kind of you are in the right place. You do belong at Vanderbilt, and to answer perhaps some of your questions right off. So between that kind of frenetic meet and greet at the beginning and that, which is the night right before class, there's 3 days of wonderful activities that I think we spend a lot, I know we do, a lot of time designing so that students can both stay kind of in the groove of exploring Vanderbilt physically. There's sometimes the scavenger hunts, that kind of thing, going to find your classes where they're going to be. Can you make it from one to the other in the time that you have allotted and so forth. And also there's just a perennial invitation to jump in and say yes when there's an activity that was programmed on the schedule for you to learn about X, Y, and Z. There are also by house or by school orientations, academic orientations, but then a ton of activities, VUSEPT sponsors well with Visions. So it really is providing a menu of options for students to explore. And so my message would be say yes, go, attend, keep your eyes and ears open, and don't stop asking people's names after the first 3 days. It's a little hard but we know it takes a long time to kind of get your bearings and also meet people. So invite people to dinner, show up with the group, just keep active and do it. And then try to sleep when you can.
That's a great transition to my next question for all of you, but I want to say a couple of things before I ask my next question. So there are a lot of questions that people have asked about, like, when will I get my housing assignment? How will I learn about the details of my rooms? So all of that information about the logistics of your move-in comes from the Office of Housing and Residential Experience. And so now that's part of Mr. Tarkington's office, but he's Director of Residential Experience. So the Office of Housing is constantly sending emails, constantly. So you will get all of that information via email. So please be sure that you check your email. If you have been assigned an early move-in, for example, you're part of some of the media studies program, for example, then you move into your dorm. So they are accommodating your early move-in, expecting you to move in here. You don't have to book a hotel, right? You move in early. Now, if you move in early, it is different because the big move-in is Saturday. So you won't have the same exact structure. And likewise, the parents and family activities happen on Saturday because we have lots of little groups that move in early, but all told, a very small percentage of the first year class moves in early. So for international students who are moving in early, there is an international student orientation for international students only that's really extensive, but for parents and families, that activity will be on Saturday. So just to make sure that everyone knows that. And we will, and we've posted the link, I believe, already to orientation. You can see it, actually it's up here where it says new student information is the end of the link. That's where you'll find the most up-to-date information about orientation. including questions that people are asking about, like, we really have to say goodbye Saturday night? Like, might there be time on Sunday? You know, yeah, you really probably do need to say goodbye Saturday night. But you look at the schedule and see if you have 5 minutes that you can squeeze in there. We're not mandating the way you arrive or leave with your students. You're not banned from the dorms. If somebody needs something, go back in, right? So the only thing we regulate is where your car goes. It cannot arrive too early and it cannot stay past your time, but you can come back. And please, if you do come back, please remember to follow the official university guidelines. So if you are unvaccinated, then we ask you to wear masks. I mentioned before, this is an intergenerational campus. Families live on campus. My children live on campus. They're 8 and 11, so they're not vaccinated. So it is, and there's lots of young kids who live on campus, or people who for other reasons are not able to be vaccinated. So that's the rule. But as long as you're following that rule, you can absolutely go back and help make the bed. Or my mom always wanted to make my bed in every new place I had gone to. And so you could, do it. We're not telling you how to help your student get into their dorm room at all. So to end, I want to ask each panelist to just share one piece of advice you have, either for students or for parents and families, that you think would be good to know in these next 4 weeks before people arrive to campus. And it can be from the silly to the profound. Any advice will do. I won't call on you. I'll let, does somebody want to start?
I'll start because I have a standard one I've done for years, so I can jump right in. Use this time to have real conversations about expectations with each other. You're making a transition of sometimes being away from home for the first time. So something as simple as, how are we going to communicate with each other? Are we going to talk weekly? We're going to talk daily, which I would not recommend, by the way. You want to allow some freedom to happen, right? Who's going to call who? Are we going to text? A lot of these conversations about setting us all up for success. I use a sports analogy all the time. Sports teams don't just get there on Saturday or Sunday when they play and say, go win, right? They put a lot of time and effort into developing a game plan for success. I think we need to do the same thing in our life. We certainly do the same thing as you make the transition to college to students, is what is my game plan for success? How am I going to make friends? If I run into stumbles, what am I going to do? What role do parents play in that? What are parents' expectations around a lot of things that are going to be transitioning? I mean, when I was growing up, I had an alarm clock, and I had two other ones. I had my alarm clock, my mom alarm clock, my dad alarm clock. If I ignored my alarm clock, my mom's was very sweet. My dad's was really not very sweet. So, and so for many of us, even something as simple as getting up on our own without somebody doing that for us is the transition. Doing laundry, all of those things. So spend some time as a family talking about expectations for success and developing a game plan that sets you up for that.
Somebody want to go next?
I can go next. Mine, that was a great example, Professor Tarkington. Mine would be, just don't be afraid to ask for help in like so many contexts, whether that's going to office hours for a professor if you don't understand something, whether that's asking your RA for advice on a friend situation, or whether that's just like asking for help in another context. But asking for help, I know it's college, so you feel really independent and I can do this on my own. I got it, I can do it my own. But it's always, you're never told to ask for help. Everyone does it, no matter what age they are at. But it's super helpful because you can get from point A to point B a lot quicker if you ask for help. So that's my advice. Yeah, just ask for help when you need it. It's always there for you, especially on campus. There's a tons of resources that are just there for you, for your taking, and there for you to be useful, like tons. So when I say like, just look through those lists, it's a lot. And yeah, just ask for help.
I definitely second Lola's advice there. One thing I would say, even though it's really hard, it's something I struggle with, I think it's something we all struggle with, but just have some patience in those first few weeks. There's so much that you probably have, especially with students, there's so much you have going on in your mind about like, oh, like, how am I going to make friends? How am I going to deal with the class if it's not going well? Like all these different types of things. And just things are going to happen as they happen in these first few weeks. And it's always good to just kind of take that step back and be patient and kind of make sure you go to help for those resources, but also trust yourself. You're here for a reason. You'll hear that all the time. And I know you'll be like, at some points you'll be like, no, it just doesn't feel like it, but you really are. And so just take your time through all those experiences that you'll have. And you have so many people here to help you throughout your journey.
That's a great collection of advice. All I would add is second, do ask for help. Go to your professor's office hours. Say yes to house events, because that's where I get to meet you. And we want you to figure out what it is you liked by being involved. And also, ideally, yes, you make your best friends in the first 3 days, but that doesn't often happen. So be patient with that process too. Continue to be friendly, ask people's names, be the friend you want to be, and organize some events so you can meet more people.
This is all great advice. Thank you so much. So thank you to all of you for joining us tonight. I did figure out how to post to the chat, so I've learned something tonight. I wanted to share the link to where you can find always the most up-to-date policies or guidelines that the university is offering around the coronavirus and the accommodations we're making, because those change. And so that link has more information than you ever wanted to know. But you can also always email us at commons.vanderbilt.edu, which I believe is the right thing. And if you have additional questions, as I mentioned, a lot of people have questions about housing. Those questions can be sent to the Office of Housing and Residential Experience, who emails students only. And so a lot of the time, students are getting information that parents are not getting, which is actually a really great opportunity to do that handing over of the reins that happens when you go to college. So students are getting information from O'Hare. Students, this information is coming to your Vanderbilt email addresses, from what I understand. So those are the ones to check. If for some reason you're checking your Vanderbilt email and you are not seeing that information, then reach out. If you go to the O'Hare website, there's lots of people to contact, lots of contact information. But one piece of kindness that you can do is to spend a little bit of time on the O'Hare website to see if the answer is posted before you email someone about it, because a lot of the time it is there. But people, we are here because you are coming. And so we are here to welcome you. We are here to work with you, and we're here to help you grow. And so reach out, as Dr. Helm said, attend the events once you're here, but even in advance, reach out if you have questions or need help, because we really are very, very happy to connect with you. And we're really looking forward to meeting you all in person. So I hope this next month is a productive, enjoyable, relaxing month. And I hope that on move-in day, whether it's the 18th or the 21st, I hope it is not 90 degrees and humid. And if it is, I hope we have popsicles. And that's all we can say. So have a great night. Take care. Reminder that we will be posting this on the website if people in your family weren't able to hear it. But do reach out if you have any questions. Thank you to all of our panelists for joining us this evening.